you know, we still need the stories, whether we read modern novels or not. It's like, you know, we need that connection, whether it's with our elders or with our kids. You know, we pass these stories on as something precious. For me personally, it's probably just the unknown, you know. I've always been drawn more to the unknown and whatever the beyond of normal life. So I would actually go out and look for these. You know, we would go to haunted houses. We would go to haunted areas of the cities. See what was going on, you know? Yeah, now, whatever that comes from, I don't know. But it kept life interesting.
It was almost like an escape.
Definitely an escape. Family life was not a happy life. So that was an escape, definitely.
Hey, welcome to the Floaties for Krakens Podcast. I am your host, Camille Maria Costa, and it is a brilliant day to be monstrous. Happy Spring Cuttlefish! Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 17 of the Floaties for Krakens Podcast. A tiny little show all about the monsters in our head, but reclaiming them instead. How you doing today? What you been up to lately? Hopefully living the dream, eating delicious snacks, and wearing very comfy socks, but if you're not, you know, you should definitely go ahead and do that, right? Because you deserve it. It's been a very interesting couple of weeks, I would say. Oh, but in case you're looking for something positive, you know, just a heads up, the Floaties team will be releasing a monster movie calendar next week for the entire month of April in order to celebrate the halfway point to Halloween. So be on the lookout for that on our Instagram, and please, please celebrate with us. Such a phenomenal human on the pod today, Cuddles. This writer is a brilliant creative who clearly loves the world of horror and has a beautiful way with words. A person who loves to push the boundaries of what it means to actually be scared and who loves a hug from man's best friend. Today we have for you the lovely Larry Hinkle. In his own words, Larry Hinkle is the least famous writer you've never heard of. Oh, Larry. A copywriter living with his wife and 2 doggos in Rockville, Maryland. When he's not writing stories that scare people into peeing their pants, he writes ads that scare people into buying adult diapers, so they're not caught peeing their pants. His new cosmic horror novella, The Eris Ridge Trail, which just released this March, everybody. Oh my god, everybody go get it. All of the links will be down below, by the way. While his debut collection, The Space Between, was published in February 2024. His work has also appeared in The Rack, stories inspired by Vintage Horror Paperbacks, October Screams, a Halloween Anthology, and multiple times on the NoSleep Podcast, among others. He's an active member of the HWA. His short stories made the preliminary Stoker ballot in 2020 and 2022, a graduate of Fright Club and Crystal Lakes Authors Journey short story and novella programs, an HWA mentee, and a survivor of the Borderlands Writers Bootcamp. Stop by and visit him at thatscarylarry.com or stalk him on the socials at thatscarylarry. Larry is truly wonderful. His work spans space and time and explores what it means to have human connections with the world around you and how scary that can be sometimes. There is courage in so much of what Larry does in writing, and he gives so much confidence for individuals who may be scared of picking up a pen for the first time. He's a representation of the magic that can happen when you never give up. Larry, thank you so much for writing the stories for the determined and for the brave. It means the world. Also, this very weekend, Larry will be attending AuthorCon in Williamsburg, Virginia, so you should definitely stop on by, say hi to Larry, and grab some of his incredible work. Just a quick content warning for this episode. In the following interview, there will be mentions and discussions of gore, death, pet death, necrophilia, and cannibalism in this episode. Do whatever you need to do to feel safe. This episode is dedicated to Coco and Sammy, forever in our stories. Alrighty, folks. Ladies and cuttlefish, let me introduce to you drive-in movies for zombies. Well, hi, Larry.
There's a little one. Hello.
How are you?
Okay, how are you doing?
Doing good, living the dream.
Yeah, well,
I guess.
at least one of us is.
How has your day been? How has your Sunday been so far?
It's just been busy. Our front porch has had little teeny tiny posts on it, and I decided that they needed to look bigger, so I rebuilt those. But when I did that, I had to take off a couple pieces of trim, and then I decided the trim looked like crap, so I had to rip off all the trim. So now I'm redoing all of it. So yeah, I barely made it here in time because I realized it was like 4:30. I'm just covered in sawdust and everything. I had to run up and jump in the shower real fast.
No, that's fair. That project, now it's become a passion project, I feel like.
Now it's become like my wife says, get that shit done. Okay.
There's no other option. You have to
Yes.
finish it.
Yes. I actually started it in last fall, and then it got too cold. So it's looked like crap all winter long. And now we finally got decent weather where I could go out and start working on it again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's nice. It's a nice Sunday project.
Yeah. You do anything fun?
Sleep and eat. I feel like that is, it's so funny. Like, it doesn't matter how long I feel like you've been out of school. Like, the Sunday scaries are always very real. Like, in my mind, my anxiety is like, you have school tomorrow. You have to do something because it's Sunday. And it's like, no, that's not real. So, movies and sleeping is always a nice combatant, I feel like.
Yeah. I catch up on my sleep on the weekends. I'll usually on the weekends sleep into like 11 or so because during the week I don't usually go to bed till 1:30 or 2, and then you got to get up like at 8 for work and stuff. So
yes.
but,
Well, speaking of work, Larry, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
I am. Do I need to give my full name? It's Larry Hinkle.
That's
probably in the show notes. I am a full-time advertising copywriter.
Yeah.
And that's what I do for a living. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I can still keep doing it for like 3 more years and then I can retire. But because of this bullshit, I'm sorry, can I cuss on here?
Of course you can.
Okay, I didn't know because
No,
I started talking about generative AI and it's just
oh dear.
There was a big thing this week where I think it was the Atlantic found out that Meta had scraped millions of books from a pirated BitTorrent site. And so like I only had one book scraped, but I have other people who've had their entire catalog scraped. Oh
my God.
And
Larry.
they have Mark Zuckerberg has so much money. He could have just bought the books. Better yet, he could just hire a staff of writers to teach his AI how to write, rather than steal it.
Right.
Generative AI is just a plagiarism theft machine. Is all it is. And but that's the reason I still hope I can work for like 3 or 4 more years before it puts me out of business. Because I've already lost a couple clients who took their stuff and they said, "Well, we're going to let AI write it."
Oh my God.
Even though they know it's just regurgitated crap, it's free, and you can't beat free. It's just barely good enough, and they know that the stuff that I write is better, but I'm not doing it for free.
Of course not, because you shouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, Larry, I'm so sorry. That's ridiculous.
I just got to hold out for a couple more years, and then I can retire, and I can write full time my other stuff. Because during the day I write ads, and at night I write horror stories.
Yes.
Horror stories.
Yeah. It's a tongue twister. That's awesome. Well, okay, so copywriting, first of all, how did you get into that world, right? How did that become your full-time career?
Well, I wanted to, actually wanted to be an artist, but then just found out I wasn't nearly good enough. So,
I bet
and
you were
then
great.
I went to school for, I was going to be a journalism major at the Ohio State University,
Yeah.
and realized that I hated talking to people. So I couldn't go out and do reporting because then you have to interview people, and I hated that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they had just started up the School of Advertising there in J School. So I just drifted over and became a copywriter. And
Wow.
that's how I did it.
In a serendipitous array of
Yeah.
events.
I just talking to people was just like it's not fun,
It's
you
tough.
know.
It's incredibly tough. Like it's a science. It
And
really
you
is.
gotta hound people, and none of that is my personality.
Yeah.
So
No, I can tell.
I just get paid to lie professionally, or embellish, I guess is the word, not lie.
Yeah, there you
We
go.
embellish,
Embellish. That's a way.
accentuate the positive.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. 100% not lie. Not lie at all. No,
Not often.
not often.
I'm just waving to my wife. She just was
Oh,
downstairs.
hello. Shout out. Well, okay, so then writing. How did writing
Uh,
as your passion, right?
okay.
How did that come to be?
Well, when I when I was a little kid, I also wanted to be a writer. Okay,
Yes.
because I was always writing stories and stuff when I was a kid and in high school. And I went to Ohio State and had took my first creative writing class, and it was taught the way that they used to do it at that they did it at Borderlands before Borderlands shut down, where
Yeah.
basically everyone gets a copy of the story, everyone in the room gets to critique the story, and you can't say anything. You just have to sit there and take it. And now, when it's all done, you get to say something. So that is a little helpful. But some of those critiques could get really harsh. I mean, some people would go to Borderlands and quit the first day
Oh
and just leave.
dear. Yeah.
But at Ohio State, the class, not only was it that the stories had to be anonymous, so you couldn't even at the end talk about what you wanted to defend about your story. And I got I got beat up so bad in that class that
Oh
I just
no.
quit. And
Oh
I quit
no.
writing for, what, 30 years maybe. And just I couldn't that class was just horrendous. It was awful.
Yeah.
And I was just, a little wimp too. I should have been able to handle it, but then
No.
after being in advertising for 30 years, 30 odd years, that you're presenting stuff to the client, and 99% of the stuff that you present never gets bought. They only
Yeah.
buy the one camp. So I just got used to it after 30 years of clients telling me this ad sucks. After a while,
Yeah.
it's like, well, maybe I could handle this writing thing for a while. I mean, it still sucks when you get rejected, like when you get a story rejection.
Oh my
That
gosh,
that is
yes.
that's still just the worst. But
Yes, of course, because you pour so much of yourself into your work, right? You're working at it, like you said, at all hours of the night, right? For weeks,
yeah,
for months, for years, even, right? And
yeah, and it's I don't know. Rejections hurt, but I get over them pretty quick now. Now
yeah,
it's just like, yeah, oh well. I might sulk for a day or two, and then that's
yeah.
then it's gone. Until you see the anthology come out and you see all the other stories in it, then you're like, shit, my story was better in that one.
Come
I
on,
should be in that anthology.
absolutely. How can you not feel that way?
Then you just get bitter for a day.
Yeah, and that's okay. You're totally allowed to be, I think.
It's my natural state.
Yeah.
It's bitter.
Well, I mean, coming from a class like that, I don't know. I'm just like a firm believer that like educational institutions, like I feel like a lot of them are like, no, this is how it's going to be like in the real world. And like, sure, but these are students like really really wanting to try this for the first time and just go for it and strip away all things and be independent and free and like god,
I
like that's
I think
rough.
I think the anonymity, and I can't say that, anonymity
And
of
You're right. I can't even
Yes,
say that.
of critiquing someone's story, but you don't know who it is you're critiquing. That's it. It lets you be a little bit more mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if
They can't.
that's a,
Yes.
but it's like being an anonymous troll on the internet,
You're safe
Um,
behind that screen. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I think if I would have been better in class if I could have discussed it and said, well, here's why I said what I said. But I mean, in all fairness, I sucked.
No.
I'm sure I was terrible. I don't have any of those stories left, thank goodness, because they'd be embarrassing.
No.
But I mean, I think I wrote my first thing, I think in 2012 or 2013. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I sold the first thing I wrote when I started
Yeah.
writing again. And I thought, oh shit, this is easy. And then I didn't sell another thing for 18 months. So it's
The
not that
nature of the
easy.
beast. Yeah.
But it wasn't until I went to a writer's retreat at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Yeah.
That was in 2000, I think the fall of 2015, or was it 2016? 2015, 2016. I went there, and then I started going to the Stoker Cons. The first one was in 2016 in Vegas.
Very
And then
cool.
I started getting more serious about writing and started taking courses and going to workshops and things like that. So even though I started again in 2012, I've only been doing it seriously, I guess, for 6-7 years maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, 2000. What year is this? 2000.
I know.
Holy
Where
shit!
are
No,
we?
that's more like 9 years since.
Yeah.
But I've only been getting good the past couple of years. So,
I think you're being too harsh on yourself, Larry. I don't think that's true. I definitely think that like everybody has to start somewhere, and there's a lot of growth anybody can do at any part of their life. And it takes practice, but I feel like it also takes encouragement, and that's why I'm so angry at like whoever led your class. Like, I'm still on that, because like that's not. I don't know. I just don't feel like
no,
just critiquing like crazy is good. It's just, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't
no.
help anybody.
That's the one bad experience I had at Ohio State, which is still the best university in the world.
Right, absolutely.
But but that was a bad experience there.
Yeah. And I'm really proud of you for being like, no. And even like, though it was years later, being like, no, I want to do this. Like, this is something that I feel like I can do and I should do and I'm going to do. And you
Yeah,
did it, you know?
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish I'd have started, years and years earlier, because when you're
Yes.
getting as old as I am, you ain't got that many years left to write. So
No,
gotta,
no,
I could have been
you're,
so much better.
no, you're great. I swear. I swear, Larry, you're in a wonderful place. You're exactly where you need to be. And
Well, thank
it's
you.
only gonna bloom from here, I feel like. So how did the
Okay, sorry.
spookiness, I guess, no, come into play? I'm curious.
I've just always liked spooky things. I think it was. I mean, it was my mom mostly that got me into it.
Yeah,
She was always reading, spooky, scary books,
yeah.
and so she had so many books that my dad had to take one wall of the living room and build a bookcase just for
Oh
her
my
books,
gosh,
and then
that's
she would
incredible.
have, boxes still of books in the basement,
Oh my
and she pretty
gosh.
much let me read what if I could read it, if I could reach it, I could read it. So she pretty much let me read whatever I wanted to. And she took me to the library every Saturday and let me check out whatever I wanted to. So I was reading adult scary things probably way earlier than I should have been. And then every Friday night they had in Columbus, Ohio, where I grew up, they had a chiller theater on Friday night, and they would show two scary movies,
Oh,
like starting at 11:30, and we would always take our sleeping bags out and sleep in the living room and stay up and watch scary movies.
that's
So
amazing.
so I've always been into it. And then well, I'll tell you the zombie story later when we get to
Oh,
the zombies.
yeah. Our special guest of honor
Mm.
for today. Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful memory though.
But then so yeah, I just always watch. I was just watching scary movies or scary shows or reading, or it's always,
Yeah.
well, it's like this week it hasn't been because March Madness is on, so I've been watching basketball nonstop. Today's the first day I haven't watched any basketball yet. Um,
Of
but
course.
other than that, yeah, it's usually something scary.
That's awesome. That's great. And I love that, you found these two loves and meshed them together, right? And
Yeah.
started writing horror and spooky stuff. Like, that's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Some of my things are, there's a lot of humor in the stuff I write. I write a lot of humor stories, and there's some that veer, and like my novella's got science fiction, fantasy, horror. It's just a
Yeah.
mashup of everything that I like. But most of the stuff I write is horror.
But that's incredible. I love that every single story you have has this fantastical element and this, I don't know, sense of escape, like escapism in it. Like, that's really lovely.
Not everyone, but this book had it.
Well, there is
Yeah,
a very, I don't know.
if you go into,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, if you go read my collection that came out last year, I mean, there's a cannibalism story in there. There's a
Right.
necrophilia story in there, but that's a funny one.
Yeah.
It's a funny necrophilia story. But yeah, it's not all puppies and rainbows, I guess.
No, not always. But there are puppies
Yes,
in a lot of
there
them.
are
So
two
that's what's
dogs. Yes, and then there were dogs. Sammy and Coco. I almost said Frankie, who's my dog upstairs. Sammy and Coco were my two dogs. I wrote stories in my collection to process the grief of both of them, of losing them, and then I just liked writing about them. So those two stories, and then two other stories from the collection, all form the basis for the novella,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
the Eris Ridge Trail, my novella.
Yes.
But you don't have to have read the short stories at all to read the novella. It's completely standalone. But if you do read the short stories, you'll get a little more of the backstory of the different characters, but nothing that's not covered in the book too. So.
And this novella just
Although
came
I would
out.
love you to buy both. You could buy my
Yes, go
collection
for it.
too.
Please.
I don't have a copy of it, but it's called The Space Between.
Yes,
From
that's right.
Trepidatio. Yes, so it came out last February, and this came out. Are we still in March?
We are. We're still in
Yeah,
March.
so it just came out in March.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations, Larry. That's so exciting.
Oh, thanks.
And we'll be linking it too. Yeah.
I never thought I could write something. All I write are short stories, because I write ads for a living. I'm used to writing to a constricted space, and the majority of stuff I write is radio advertising. So for a 60-second spot, you have, give or take, 160 words plus or minus, and that's it. So I'm used to writing super, super short. And the longest thing that I had written prior to this was 5,700 words. And this one checked in almost a little over 35,000.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's awesome.
5,000 more words, I could have had a novel, but that's just where the story needed to end. I didn't, it's funny though, because some of it's been getting a lot of really good reviews, and quite a few of them have said they wished it were longer.
Yes, I saw that too.
That's as long as I could write. It's like, that's it. So.
And
the story, I didn't leave anything out of the story that I wished I would have put in, because so some all my friends, or my writing group, all of them write long and then cut down. They overwrite everything. Most writers write that way. They write, and then they keep paring it down and paring it. I write really short, and then I keep having to go back and make it longer and build it up and build it up. Like the last short story I finished last week, the first draft was 2,100 words, and then by the time I was done with it, it was almost 4,500, because I just keep making it longer, because I just write just the bare minimum. A lot of times I'll just I like to write my dialogue first, and that's and then just go back and start filling in the scene and directions, and just because writing advertising, you write a ton of dialogue. And that's what I'm used to. I'm used to writing dialogue. So that's how a lot of my stories start, is just dialogue. And then you start just, maybe they're in a kitchen, and then you start going back in and filling in what the kitchen looks like, and whether they're drinking coffee or having cinnamon rolls or whatever.
And how they get to
starts off as just those two just talking.
That's awesome. I kind of love that though. I feel like there's so much room for creativity that you can have because you're like, no, I know exactly what they're going to say. This is where they're gonna, this is how they're gonna say it. And that's so fun to be like, ooh, okay, where do we put them, right?
Yeah.
What circumstances, what setting, what plot, when is this gonna happen, how are they gonna move from here to here? Like, I don't know, that's exciting. I feel like that's exercising a very creative muscle.
It's different. Some of my friends will make fun of me for the way I write. But
Well,
that's just the way this is the way I write. I can't help it.
and it
Some
works
people will write chapters out of order. I couldn't do that. I mean, I have to write things in order.
chronologically.
I had never writing short stories. I never you don't have to outline a short story. You just write it.
Yeah.
But I got about 10,000 words into this, and I was taking a novella writing course from Crystal Lake.
Ooh.
And Joe Meinhardt. You get really good critiques, and you get an hour critique from him where he can take you through it. And he convinced me of the need for an outline, because he was asking me, okay, great, now what happens next? What happens?
I don't know.
What happens next? How's it going to end? I don't know. And I barely know because you sit and you just start writing. But writing this long in half a night, because it's got 4 different characters who have their own thing going, then they all join up. There's a lot of shit to keep track of, and I wasn't able to do it all in my head, so that helped, having an outline. That was something definitely different for me, which I had never done before.
Yeah, it pushes you in a cool way, and you're right, it is nice to have it all laid out in front of you. And
even then, I didn't stick completely to it, because something might happen. You just have to change it a little bit, but say, okay, they're not going to go to this place. They're going to go to this place first, then go to that place.
Right.
But the end result was what I wanted it to be. Everything happened the way I wanted it to. Just getting there, having the outline helped me get there, but there were a lot of little side things that got in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What great writing camps. These sound really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. Borderlands isn't around anymore, but it was really good. Really, really hard. Crystal Lake, I've taken a short story writing class there and the novella writing class there. And those are both really good. The best one I would say for anyone to take is Mona Lawrence's Fright Club. It used to be offered through the HWA, and then he took it. It was just getting so big, he just went private with it. But at that one, I've been through Fright Club 1 and Fright Club 2 so far, and you get every week you have to write 2,000 words, and you have to critique 2 other people's 2,000 words.
Oh my god!
And he gives you a topic. You have a Zoom call at the beginning of the week, usually like on Sunday night, and he goes, here's the topic you're writing for. My necrophilia story was the topic we had that week. I never would have written a necrophilia story, without that. But now that's what I do for public readings, because it's so funny.
Yes, that's so awesome. Again,
so his
all these creativities. Yes,
his course is the best thing for a beginning writer, not even a beginning writer, any writer, I think, to take, because you are very, very productive, and you're writing things that you might never have thought about trying yourself. And the majority of stories that started in Fright Club, I have sold the majority of them, and most people who take it end up selling most of the stories. So
God,
that's
cool.
One people should definitely take.
That sounds awesome. What a cool, and it's so organized, it sounds like, and I don't know, it just sounds like a really nice layout of how to create.
That's
awesome.
Just be ready to work, because he'll work you. So.
It sounds like it. Not only do you have to write, you have to review, and I feel like that also puts your feelers out there for
reviewing is I don't know, man. It's fun to do with people who can take criticism, but sometimes you'll get with people who can't take criticism, like I used to be. Like now I'm like, oh, I could take criticism now. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I like reading and critiquing other people's stuff. We have a writers group that meets every one Monday every month, usually like the second or third Monday, and So and we're all over the country, so we're just it's all done on Zoom, but everyone sends a story in, and then you critique each other's work.
I love that.
So that's
so
most
nice.
the writing group actually read all of this before it came out because I was giving them 3 or 4 new chapters at a time as I was writing it.
That's awesome. They got a sneak preview.
Yeah, and then 2 of the people in the group, my friends, Tom Dede and Krista Carmen, were also beta readers for it. So after I had it all done and they were in a writing group and went through it, then I rewrote it and gave it to them, and they beta read it for me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that really, really helps because we the 3 of us will beta read each other's things. Like I just read Krista's new novel that's coming out this October, I believe, and it's fantastic. Can't tell you what it is, but it's her
exciting.
It's her best thing she's written yet. And she's already won a Stoker. That's how good she is. But this book is so. And then I'm reading one of Tom's new ones now, and it's really good. He won a Stoker too. Everyone wants Stokers but me. I haven't won a Stoker.
It's coming. Oh, Larry, it's coming. I know it is. I feel it. I feel it in my bones.
I made the preliminary ballot twice, but they won't let you publicize that. So it's
really?
Yeah, you can only publicize it if you make the final ballot, which is the top 5. The preliminary ballot is the top 10. And I've had this talk with all the presidents at some point or another. You should be able to, like, if you're top 10, that's the long list. You're in the top 10. You should be able to say I was in the top 10.
Yes.
But so if then you're a nominee if you're in the top 10. You should be a finalist and you're in the top 5. And if you win, then winner chicken dinner.
Yeah.
But you're not a nominee in the top 10. You're not a nominee until you're in the top 5, the finals. And it's just irritating because I can't 2-time Stoker Award nominated writer because I wasn't nominated their eyes because you only made the top 10s. So if anyone from HW is watching this, I'm just bitching about it again, as I do all the time.
And that's okay because I feel like you should be that passionate about your work. And, it's exciting to say that you made it there. Like that's in and of itself. Right.
Yeah, like I say it, obviously I'll say it. And in my bio, I put my stories were made the preliminary ballot in 2020 and 2022, but I can't say I was nominated, but I can say I made the preliminary ballot. But that's just more of a mouthful. It doesn't sound as cool as saying you were nominated.
Sure.
Or at least say made the long list, but you have to say preliminary ballot. So I don't know.
It's coming, Larry. I think it's gonna happen.
I think so. We'll see.
I think so. And you have a pretty great book here that just came out, so you never know.
Yeah.
You never know, Larry.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I love this. This is
getting
great.
Too fidgety.
No, you're not. You're doing great.
Okay.
But I do have a hard question for you, which may make you fidget
that?
even more. In your personal opinion, Larry, what do you think a monster is?
This was a really hard one. I actually had to ask Tom for help.
Oh, I love it.
I couldn't come up with a good definition. So he said, and I rewrote it a teeny bit, but it's something, whether it's human or not, that is either is or perceived to be evil. And you could say perceived to be evil because Jaws wasn't evil.
Yeah.
Jaws was just a shark that was really hungry.
Yeah.
But he was still a monster. Cocaine Bear wasn't a monster. It was just a really big bear high on cocaine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So people call those monsters, but they're not monsters. But they may not be evil. I mean, you could make an argument that vampires may not be evil. They're just
hungry.
They have to feed.
Yeah.
Now zombies, I would say, are probably monsters because zombies are.
Ooh, this is exciting.
They're monsters because, I mean, they don't have any intelligence to them. They're just primal urge. All they want to do is eat. At least a vampire is still thinking and could say I'm not going to eat this person. I'm going to eat this person. They have a choice and they'll choose. Like some vampires only eat, kill bad people.
That's
Whereas a
true.
zombie just kills indiscriminately. If it sees you, it's
anything.
going to eat you. So that's why zombies are monsters. Okay, there you go.
This is fun. This is exciting. I'm gonna pick your brain, just like a zombie would. Well, okay. So I love this idea. First of all, that you included is or perceived to be, because I feel like that leaves a whole wealth of information. Like there is so much that can be taken from that. And I feel like perception from society or just people in the story, right, that are not, the monster. Like that's a huge teller. Like the fear that you can see from these people. It is a big part of it. And I love the idea of they could be evil or perceived to be evil, right? And that's what makes them monstrous.
Yeah, it's fear of the other, and the other is you're gonna think it's a monster, whether it is or not.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Fearing, I don't know, what you don't understand, what you may not understand in that moment. It's scary. Yeah.
It's like what was that movie? Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Tucker and Dale were not monsters. Everyone thought they were because all the bad things kept happening right around them, but they were the good guys. Yeah. The other guy was the monster, the serial killer.
That's like the perfect example for that question. It really is. That's perfect. Exactly. Well, okay, we've been throwing around this term a lot, but in your opinion, what do you think is a zombie, Larry? What the heck is a zombie?
I'm not going to get into the voodoo zombies just because I never really
That's okay.
liked those all that much. It's a different type of zombie.
It is.
A zombie, if it's a real zombie, has to be dead and then come back to life. That's why 28 Days Later are not zombies.
Ooh, I love
they
this.
Are,
Why?
It's because they're infected with a virus. They're infected with the rage virus, but they never die. They just become, killing machines. All they want to do is kill, but they're not a zombie. I mean, people, they act like zombies, I guess, but they're not zombies because they never died. They're plague victims in 28 Days Later. Anything that where the people, if they can go crazy, but if they don't die, they're not a zombie.
Yeah.
This is a huge argument amongst zombie fans, whether 28 Days Later, whether they were zombies or not, and they're not zombies.
I love this.
A lot of people say they are, but I am definitely on the not zombie camp.
I mean,
I love the movie.
Great point.
It's a great movie. 28 Weeks Later was a fantastic movie also, but not zombies.
I love that. Ooh, that's so fun.
You have to be dead and you have to come back to life. And then, of course, you have to eat people.
Yeah, so that's a big part
I guess
of it.
That's the given. Yeah.
You are
and not necessarily the, Return of the Living Dead is a fantastic movie, but they had them talking and saying brains and stuff, kind of like, it bothers the purist in me. But I love the movie, so.
Of course. Well, when were you first introduced to your love of zombies, Larry?
That would be, I was probably just, my brother was there, so I would have been 6 or 7, maybe.
Little.
Little, yeah. And we went, Mom and Dad took us to an all-night dusk to dawn horror movie marathon at the drive-in.
Oh my God.
And Night of the Living Dead was the last film of the evening. So it was playing, like at 3 a.m. or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
And people, this would have been back in the early 70s. And there were people dressed up like zombies wandering through the parking lot, banging on cars, and, hitting windows and stuff. And it just scared the hell out of me. But I've loved. I've seen Night of the Living Dead more than any other movie ever.
That's your movie.
I've seen that 100 times at least.
Yeah.
And that's just I watch that one every year at Halloween. No matter what.
Oh my God.
It's. I don't think it's my favorite movie, but it's the one I've watched the most.
Yeah.
Just, you have
There's
to
a
watch
comfort
Halloween.
to it. Yeah.
It's very much a comfort movie for me. I
Yeah,
could put that
yeah,
one on in the background and do things. And just, all the dialogue to it. And
right.
it just,
Second nature.
it's, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's too bad that, Romero never made a dime off of that movie because
Really?
no, it was initially called Night of the Flesh Eaters. And at the last second, they changed the title, but didn't copyright the new title. So it's
Oh,
been in public domain like the entire time.
you're joking.
No. I mean, he made money on the other zombie movies, but the
Right.
one that started everything, nothing. Never
What?
made a dime.
That is
Yeah, it's
bananas to
crazy.
me. That is crazy. Holy
And
crap.
he started everything with zombies, and didn't
Literally.
make any money until Dawn, which came out a few years
Oh,
later. Ah,
that is wild. Oh man, George.
I
Just
know, poor guy.
golly. What, like, you're right. He paved a giant path for the world of zombies. Like, that is pinnacle, right? Like, that is what you think about when you think of a zombie, right? That's what you picture. That's what you see. And he built
Yeah,
that world, which is
that
so
that or the
cool.
guy, the one in Night or Return of the Living Dead yelling brains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So those two
Right.
actually knew each other. George Romero, and I forget the name of the director of
Gosh.
Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, yeah,
But they
yeah.
knew. I don't remember now if he actually worked on Night of the Living Dead or not. But they knew each other from the zombie films,
Oh
and
my
he went out and
gosh.
did his own thing and made Return of the Living Dead.
That's
So
crazy.
that's why they had that little Easter egg at the beginning of
Which
it when they're
one?
first when he's bringing, what's the new guy's name, Freddie, and they're down in the bottom of the medical supply lab, and that's when they have all the big barrels, and he's
Right.
talking about like the army barrels from Pittsburgh, and he hits it. He basically gives, I forget the exact wording, but he gives a little shout out to the zombie outbreak in
That's
Night of the Living
awesome.
Dead. So
Yeah. That's so cool. Paying homage to where it all
yeah.
began. That's cool. It's almost like a family tree of directors and creators. That's really
Easter
cool.
eggs like that are funny. I put a bunch of them in my novella for other people's work. Like there's Easter eggs for The Stand and The Dark Tower.
Ooh.
There's an Easter egg from Joe Landis's The Drive-In. I
Ooh.
have an Easter egg for Tom. He's got like a fictional town called Circadia. I threw that in there.
I love that.
Who else? I think I got. Oh shit! Now I'm totally drawing a blank. But I like to put other things in there that just bring other stories into it. It just makes it feel like a much
Yeah.
bigger world.
Yes. An interconnected world. And
Yeah,
it's
and I love when I'm
fun.
reading and find that,
Yes.
especially. I mean, King was the one who really started it. He would always put, because
Yes.
all of his stuff
Oh
bleeds
my
over into
God.
another. But when you would read things, like I remember the first time I was reading Wizard and Glass, and they got toward the end when it was a TikTok man, and the guy, now I forget how that guy came in. His name was Richard something, but
Yeah.
he had the initials RF. And as soon as I realized his initials were the RF, that's when you realize it's actually Randall Flagg. Spoiler alert for like a 30-year-old book, or however old that book is now.
It's
But yeah,
okay.
Randall Flagg's my favorite Stephen King character of all.
Really?
So when I read that one, it's like, holy shit, and then, but he does that with all of his stuff. It all bleeds
Yes.
over, either to Dark Tower or Derry or Castle Rock or
Oh
something.
God, yeah.
You
So
know,
much. So much. You're right. It's so much fun. It's just great, and you feel like in on a little secret too.
hmm
I don't know. It's cool.
yeah, that's what my I did an HWA mentorship program, and my mentor would always tell me to take like things like that out and pop culture references out. And he's like,
Really?
nobody's gonna get that Easter egg. I said, well, I don't
Some
care.
for that
One
one
person's gonna
person.
get it, and the other people. It doesn't take away from the story to have it in there. It
No.
just, but it makes the story even better for the person who gets it.
Oh,
So I just put them back
totally.
in.
I
So,
agree with you. I think that's really fun. And like you said, I don't know, it just it feels like you're writing directly for that specific audience member, and that's fun. Like, that's exciting to read. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's so cool, Larry. That's so cool. Okay, well, in your purest vision of the zombie, Larry, what do you think they look like? Like your perfect zombie, if you will. What do they look
Well,
like?
I mean, it depends on, well, what do they look like? It depends on when they were, how long they've been dead.
True.
Like if you had like an aneurysm in your sleep and you woke up and your wife saw you, she wouldn't know you're a zombie at first because you're going to look exactly the same. You died in your sleep. I mean, your eyes are going to be glassy or dead, and you're going to be really stiff moving. But to someone seeing you just walking on the street, you're not going to. But then the longer you're dead, obviously, because you can't heal, wounds will just get open, and you have blood on guts and brains all over your mouth and stuff.
Yeah.
But the longer you're dead, the more you decompose, the worse you get looking. That's hard because it's fun to see all the really, really gross makeup on zombies that have been the stuff Nicotero does or did for the Walking Dead. Some of the ones who have been dead for years,
really long time.
They're just so nasty looking. Those are really cool. But my favorite zombie stories are actually the ones that take place right at the beginning and during the beginning of the outbreak. When the military still doesn't have control of things and they're just overrunning society. That's the best. That's my favorite type of zombie story.
Really?
So I guess my favorite zombie would be one that could still looks fairly normal. I mean, you can they're gonna stink, and you can tell they're really stiff. That's another thing. Fast zombies are bullshit.
That's what I was about to ask you.
Yes. Zombies are supposed to shuffle. Like Romero said, they can't run because their ankles would snap.
Yeah, well, literally, it's not possible.
Now, I will say I really, really loved Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Really?
And he had fast zombies in it, which,
Yes.
okay. So I know I'm being hypocritical here.
No, it's okay.
But I don't think zombies should be able to run. But that movie was so darn good that I'll forgive it.
If it's a good story and there's a reason, like it's good writing, like it's okay. It's okay. Sure, fine.
Yeah.
But
that one was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, fast zombie. Like not only I'm with you on that. Like I love zombies that are slow. I think that makes the most sense. It adds to the haunting nature of them. And fast zombies just give me the creeps. Like I do not like it. Like at all. It is not fun.
No, you could give me just a big old horde of zombies, just such a big horde of them just overrunning a town, and that's the best.
It really is.
Or even if it's only like 20 or so, and you're holed up in your house or your building, and they're surrounding the house trying to break in. That's the best kind of zombie story.
Oh yeah, because they kind of never stop. You know what I mean?
They don't stop. They're just a relentless killing machine.
Yeah.
The only way you can stop it is to kill the brain, because they will always just keep coming after you and trying to eat you.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, you said killing the brain, right? Getting rid of the brain, harming the brain in some way. Like, that typically stops them.
That'll kill a zombie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Because even if you can lop their head off, and their body's not going to move anymore. Although it did in they did that in Return of the Living Dead too. It was a funny gag. But in typical zombie stuff, if you destroy the brain, you kill them. So even if you lop their head off, their eyes and stuff are still going to be moving because their brain is still functioning.
Right.
And if their head's just laying on the ground and your foot gets too close to it, it can still bite you. It can't really eat you, but it's going to bite you, and that will be enough to turn you into a zombie.
And that's, in terms of transmission, right? Like, how would one become a zombie? It's typically through biting, right? That's all it takes.
Biting, yeah. Yep. If you're bit by one, you become one. Now, like in The Walking Dead, though, that turned out to be it's just an airborne virus that everyone has. So like if no matter how you die, because what was it? What was the name of that show? was one they only did 2 years, and it was kind of like teenagey soapy. It started off in Omaha, and
Oh, okay.
which was cool for me because I lived in Omaha.
Oh my gosh.
But they had figured out how to live with the threat, and so everyone's apartment or homes had bars on the doors and the windows and stuff.
Yeah.
So like this one girl went to visit her next door neighbor who had died in the night, and she opened the door, and the zombie was there. Zombie couldn't get out. That's the whole point of it. Is so you figure out so even if you die in your sleep, you can't get out and infect other people. They just basically lock you in your house at night.
That's crazy.
So it's a smart way to do it.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so that was different. I think Kirkman said in an interview once it was a space spore is actually what caused it in The Walking Dead. But yeah, so everyone there is infected. But you typically, like in Romero's universe, you have to be bitten.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Especially, I'm curious too with, I feel like us, experiencing a pandemic, experiencing COVID-19 and stuff. I think there was a lot of play on the idea of zombie, like around that time, and you see a lot of art coming out of it now.
Yeah, I used to have a picture. Someone had done it with those lit signs, and it just said, "This virus sucks. I wanted zombies."
That would have been way cooler. That's great.
Yes.
Why do you think that there is that mass paranoia of this idea of a pandemic or some sort of virus, right? Not only running rampant, right, but turning people into zombies.
It's just a cool idea. I think that's why so many people like it and so many people play in that universe and write zombie stories because I mean everyone loves a story about the end of the world. Whether it was like The Stand with Captain Trips, which is a virus that killed everybody, but they didn't come back. No matter what, like back in the early 2000s, they had those two movies. Both of them about a meteor or comet hitting the Earth, the Deep Impact, and I forget Armageddon, the really bad one with Bruce Willis in it. It's a fun movie to watch, but it's a terrible movie. But it's still fun to you're flipping through and watching. It's like, I get sucked in again, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
So anything about I think the end of the world, people just like that, and the zombies make it more thrilling.
Definitely.
I mean, The Stand's a great story, but just think how much cooler it would be if instead of 98% of the population dying, 98% of the population came back and wanted to eat you. Yeah. So
terrifying.
It ups the stakes for survival a little bit more.
Yes, survival is such a big part.
People just like the adrenaline rush. That's all. Zombies are just fun.
They are fun. They are fun, and I feel like it's also unsettling, especially in those storylines in so many zombie movies or zombie, books, is, somebody you love, right, turning into a zombie. And either you being confronted with that or something, or you have to kill them. I mean, gosh, those storylines, they get me. They really, really do. It becomes a story about relationships. And
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times eventually the zombie story, this obviously happened in The Walking Dead, the zombie story becomes less about the zombies and more about the survivors. There are entire episodes of The Walking Dead where they wouldn't even show a zombie. It's just about the people being really shitty to each other. It's like, you guys are the last surviving people. You all should be getting along instead of having war with one community against the other and killing each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually I think every zombie story becomes a story about the people because they're going to get used to the zombies after a while. And they'll get used to learning how to survive and build communities again. And then it's just back to the same old people shit.
Always.
Stupid people.
Their own worst enemy. Every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
Yeah, it should give you a chance to reset society, but it doesn't.
It never. That's a good point. Yes. You would think in the natural order of things, that's what it would be doing, and it's never is.
But you get to rebuild everything, like in Land of the Dead, Romero's, and
Ooh,
then Brian Keene's book, the second one in his zombie, not I think it was City of the Dead, right after The Rising. Both
got
of
it.
those really played with
Yes.
classism in zombies, where
Yes.
they
Yes.
hold up, the rich people hold up in this big, huge, towering, apartments, hotels, and they kept poor people around still, but they had to live down on the ground to
Mm-hmm.
serve all the rich people, and that's it. Just rich people
Yeah.
got the money, and people are gonna be people even during a zombie apocalypse. They're like, we're gonna stay
Yes.
up here and be all rich, and you people down there, if you get eaten, no big deal.
That's fine.
Um,
Right. Right.
but yeah, it's definitely it. I mean, it just plays into so many different things about society that
Yeah.
I think that's another reason zombies are popular. There was a movie. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago now. It was on Shudder called
Ooh.
Blood Quantum,
Ooh.
and
Okay.
it's a Canadian film, and it was a zombie outbreak, but natives were indigenous people were immune to it. So basically, everyone else, all the white people, are getting slaughtered, and
That's
all the
amazing.
indigenous people on the reservation, they made big, huge forts and everything to stay in and be safe, but they were immune to the virus. And then a lot of the story was them trying to decide who they let in and everything. So
Oh my
it really
God.
played with that dynamic in a really interesting way. I thought parts
Yes.
of it got a little kind of character motivation. Some of the things were like, that person only did that to make the story go.
Sure.
You can tell when the author does that, because it
Sure.
has to happen, but it doesn't fit their character. There's
Yeah.
a couple of things that I think that happened in it, but other than that, I love the idea that they were exploring, and they had some really good zombie effects too. So it
Yeah.
was a good movie too.
That sounds like a really good movie. I love that idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Romero did that. Like I said in well, that's what Dawn of the Dead. He was
Mhm.
skewering consumerism.
Mm.
He had
Yes.
just the people. It's like, why are they all coming here? And it's like, because it was important to them.
Yeah.
And I love some of the shots where the zombies are walking around in the mall, just dragging a toaster behind them and things like that. It's such a
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't really have any of that in Snyder's remake of it.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
his was just a flat out zombie action
Zombies.
film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You go
Where
there.
Romero always had some sort of societal subtext going
Yeah.
on in his stories.
He put a lot of
That's
thought.
why he's the best the best at it.
He's incredible. I mean, how can you not think that? I mean, it's God, the characters he creates and the storyline. I mean, and it's heartfelt. Like, I don't know. It's just so cool. It's just
There's
so cool.
he had a part of a novel he had started, and then obviously didn't finish it because he died.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Krauss, the writer, worked with his wife, and he took it over and finished it. I think it's called The Living Dead. I have a signed copy of it upstairs in my
Oh
office.
my
I'm pretty sure
goodness.
that's it. But Daniel Krauss, he's the guy who wrote Whale Tale, which was like a huge book last year.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, so he finished that. So we're still getting Romero's stuff, even though he's been dead for a while now. Because they're making a movie now too. They found a script that he had started, and I
Oh my
forget who
goodness.
is taking it over to finish writing it and directing it, but they're working with the estate, and so we'll get sometime in the next couple of years a new Romero zombie film.
I feel like that's a zombie in and of itself too, right? Like when your work lives on
Yeah,
after you've passed is I mean, it's only telling of his scope and like how many people he's touched and reached with his work.
hopefully this one will be a good one, because
I
his
know.
last one, I think it was Survival of the Dead, was just
I didn't see
awful.
it.
It was so you don't need to see
Ugh,
it. It was
not good.
awful. No,
Ugh.
it's far and away the worst one of all the ones he's done.
Oh my
It's like,
gosh. Yeah,
yeah. I know
yeah.
a lot of people hate Diary of the Dead, which is all found footage, and I
Oh,
actually really liked that one.
really?
It followed a group of students who were out making a movie when the zombie outbreak started.
Jeez.
So pretty much all of their stuff is them filming each other and
Right.
talking and filming the zombies and stuff like that. And a lot of people hated that one, but I thought that one was pretty cool. It's way
Yeah.
better than Survival of the Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And the found footage is kind of fun. A fun twist.
Yeah, it's if I can't watch found footage. I get nauseous. I get
So do I.
so it takes me forever to watch a found. It'll take me like a few days to watch it.
Yeah.
I think it took me 3 or 4 days to watch Cloverfield.
Oh my
You
God.
know,
I can't even watch it, Larry. I get so sick.
ugh. We went, and I didn't know this was a problem until when Blair Witch came out.
Oh, geez,
My wife and I
Louise.
went to see it, and I had no idea I had this problem. I mean, we went into the theater, and like 10 minutes into the movie, I thought I was going to throw up.
Oh, Larry.
So I watched it in the theater with my eyes closed
Oh,
and my head down, and then
no.
Vanessa would hit me. She goes, "I think something scary is going to happen," and I would watch it for a few minutes and get sick again, and it's like that.
Oh
So
my
it's
God.
and I now I know I can't do found footage, so it's very
Yeah.
rare that I will watch one because it's going to take me a long time.
Quite some time. And it's not as
And usually it's not
enjoyable.
worth it.
Yeah.
You
it's
know,
not.
Cloverfield was worth it. That was a great movie.
It's a great
You know,
premise. Awesome monster. Very cool. It's very cool.
um,
But I'm
but
with you.
more often than not, you know,
Yeah.
I used to love playing computer games, but those were the same thing. Like first person shooters, I could only play 15 minutes at a time. So it would take me months to
Yeah.
get through like Doom or Halo or something
Oh, I can't
because I
do
play 10
Halo.
or 15 minutes and I
Yeah.
get sick. And so you're only going through it 10 or 15 minutes at a time. And by the next day, you forgot what happened the day before. So you just get killed in the same way. And
Golly.
yeah,
I'm with you on that one. I am a very
yeah,
queasy person. And that is, which
yeah,
sucks because like I'm with you. I want to be able to sit down and enjoy these films. But it is what it
yeah.
is. It is what it
People
is, I
ask me,
guess.
"Hey, did you see this movie?" No. How
Absolutely
about
not.
this one? Nope, haven't seen it. Not
I
gonna
will
see
throw
it.
up. I am so sorry. Cannot do it.
Yeah,
Cannot do it.
I've what they call it, snow sickness. I can't
Oh,
ski in super cloudy flat light because there's no shadows and I get
oh,
sick. So
oh
I
my
pretty much
gosh.
have to limit my ski days to partly sunny or all sunny days
Oh my
because
gosh.
otherwise it happened one time. I got caught in a bad snowstorm up at Copper, and we're at the top, trying to come back down when it rolled in, and you couldn't see anything. It was just total whiteout conditions. So you
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, you could see your skis, but the ground looked just like the air, you know, because it's all just white and there's no shadows differentiating. So
Oh
it
no.
took me like 40 some minutes to get down the mountain because I would
Oh
ski
my
10 or 20
goodness.
yards and have to sit down and try not to throw up. So
Yeah.
eventually I got to where some trees were. As long as I could keep the tree, I at least knew where that I was going downhill because it wasn't just a total whiteout and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, and then I just went in the lodge and sat in with my head down for the rest of the day. Like my friends kept skiing because it didn't bother them, and
Well, good for you
I was
guys.
so sick. So
Oh my
anything like
god.
that, just I can't do it.
Oh my god. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
I didn't know it either. So
Jeez.
now even if it's going to be sunny, I'll take a couple Dramamines
Yeah,
and put
smart.
those little wrist
What,
things.
the little bands? Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
little wristbands on there and do that too. And then
Jeez.
wearing sunglasses, really dark sunglasses helps.
Helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps. It helps you can see shadows a little better.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, but
Larry,
I still
that's
ski as
crazy.
often as I can. 'Cause
It's still
that's my
fun.
that and riding my bike are my two favorite things to do
Oh,
sports wise.
yeah. Yeah. You're such a well-rounded individual. I love that you create horror stories in the midst of that. I think that's really fun. Do you think you're ever gonna write like a I don't know, like maybe a skiing horror horror
No,
story?
probably not. Yeah,
Dang.
I just right. I think writing something in the snow that takes place in the snow is just would I think that would be really really hard. And you got to
Yeah,
come up for all these different ways to talk about cold and all the different
definitely.
ways to talk about whiteout conditions, and it
Sure.
just I just that's I maybe I will. I think that would be a hard one. I'd have to sit down and read a bunch of winter horror first.
Yeah.
Excuse me, to see how other people did it.
Yeah.
Because off the top of my head, I'm just thinking that would be hard.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
There's only so many ways you can say you're cold. So.
Right. How do you make that unique? You're right.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. You never know. It could happen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, the next thing. Well, I guess. Do you have any questions about the book or anything?
I do. I mean, honestly,
Okay.
I know that we kind
We're
of
just jumping around everywhere because I was about to say something, but then I realized we haven't even talked about the book. So.
Well, and I don't want to no spoilers or anything like that. But I am curious. You mentioned at the beginning, right? And I didn't know this, that like there are bits and pieces of other stories and other segments that kind of created. Can you tell me about that process, like a little bit more, and how that came to be?
Was. Well, I'd written these stories. They were all in my collection. The stories were The Space Between, which made the preliminary Stoker ballot. I will point out, I can't say it was nominated, but it made the preliminary Stoker ballot. That was the title collection. It was that one, the story Strange Constellations, the story Lost at Last, and the story Tunnel at the End of the Light. Those are the 4 that all feature characters that are in this book. Yeah. But like I said, you don't need to have read them. Right. In fact, you will be confused because in the original version of The Space Between, the character's name was Eric, and the character's name in Tunnel at the End of the Light also named Eric. Oof. So when I put them together I threw my pen across the room. When I put them together in the novella, well, I can't have 2 Erics. Right. So if you read Space Between, the guy named Eric is now named Craig.
Yeah.
So
just a little different.
Yeah, no biggie. But I've always used Eric as like just a placeholder name until I think of something better. Yeah. And when I wrote the collection, when I saw the first proofs, I realized what had happened. Went through and changed it, and then when they sent me the next proofs, I forgot to check that.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it stayed Eric. So now all the copies of The Space Between have the guy named Eric when his name should be Craig.
That is hilarious.
But anyway, so I wrote Lost at Last and The Tunnel were both written to help process the grief of losing my dogs Coco and Sammy.
Right.
Now, the story Tunnel takes place at the Stanley Hotel, and it's pretty much autobiographical, except for the guy being, haunted by his dog's ghost and all the drugs.
Yeah, just a little detail.
Except for all the drugs. Other than that, the rest of the story is pretty much autobiographical. Because I went to that retreat just a few months after losing Coco, and so I was dealing with that the whole time. So he's the writer in that story is haunted by his dog's ghost, literally haunted by his dog's ghost. He encounters him in the tunnels beneath the Stanley. And if in the novella, when you first run across Eric and Coco, it's right as they exit the tunnels coming out of the Stanley. And then Lost at Last was written about my dog Sammy. Like parents don't say they have a favorite kid, but they do. You're not supposed to have a favorite dog, but Sammy was my favorite dog.
Oh, yeah.
And she was, she slept under my desk when I was writing and stuff. So she was just always there all the time. And losing her was really, really hard.
I'm so sorry.
So when I wrote this, thanks. When I wrote this story, Sammy lives in the whole story. So Sammy doesn't. She's not a ghost. Although Coco's not a ghost now either. She does come back. She's a normal dog now. But both of I wrote them, and they were both open ended. All of those 4 stories actually were open and ended enough that they ended on a good place, but there was still more story to be told. And my friends Tom and Krista were always ragging on me to write something longer than a short story. So I don't know how to come up with an idea that can last, 30, 40,000 words. And I got these 4 short stories. Maybe I can put them all together and see what happens. Yeah. And I just liked writing about Coco and Sammy still being alive.
Oh my gosh.
So they're still, they live.
They live.
throughout the whole story. So because I
mean,
don't want either.
I imagine that's their inspiration right on the cover.
Yeah,
Those two
it's
little
not
guys.
the one of Coco, the doggy on the left with is pretty much perfect. The one on the right, the ears are just a teeny bit too pointy. But I had made Francois change so many things already on the cover that I was like, okay, I'm going to let that go.
It's fine. It's fine.
The initial concept he gave me was great, and I was like, okay, but what if we did this, and what if we did this, and so eventually I got to, and it was sometimes her ears will stand, but not all the time.
Yeah,
but it's close enough that I look at him and it's Sammy and Coco.
That's so
because
awesome.
I never, the only pictures I had to give him were pictures from the front, so he didn't have a picture. These are both shots from behind, so you can't expect him to get that totally right. But the cover is just so cool.
It's so cool.
It's I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Valancourt because he's French Canadian. Yeah, Francois Valancourt, and he is such a good cover artist. He's actually done a lot of stuff from collectible editions of Stephen King stuff. He did. There's a collectible edition of The Stand that he did all the illustrations for.
Oh my god!
He's done covers for Cemetery Dance and just a ton of book covers. And it's funny because he used to be an art director in advertising, so we had that in common.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted him to do my cover, but I never thought I could afford him. And I just mentioned it one day, like I'd love to have him, and he just wrote and said, "Hey, I do some covers, on the lower end sometimes to help people out." I was like, "Oh my God, please help me out."
That's so kind.
It was, it still wasn't cheap, but it was affordable, and it's definitely worth it.
It's eye-catching.
I get so many comments on that cover,
It's so really eye-catching. Like, truthfully, it sounds so silly, but I was like so enamored with the puppies at first that I was like, wait, what is that?
And what's that big thing?
What's that big thing? Without any spoilers, Larry, what can you tell readers? What can they expect in terms of this world and this genre?
This, it's a mashup of a lot of my favorite things. I mean, it's a horror story. It's a dark fantasy story. It's a science fiction story.
Right.
It has alternate dimensions in it. It has time travel in it. It's got time loops in it.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things that I really, really groove to in books and movies, except zombies. There's no zombies in
right,
there.
unfortunately, not this time.
Yeah, no zombies. But pretty much everything else I put in here.
Yeah.
And it's I like to call it it's a cosmic horror road trip with dogs.
Yeah.
Is the log line for it. But it's basically about 4 people who enter the trail. The Eris Ridge Trail is a trail that kind of spans space and time.
Right.
And it's constantly changing. So like you could be walking on the trail and look one way, like turn around, and the trail behind you is changed, which is why it's impossible or nearly impossible once you're on it to find your way back off of it, because the trail is never the same.
Never.
Now that is exacerbated a lot by lightning. So whenever there's a storm, it'll change instantaneously. And there's a couple scenes in there where that's happening, and the people are just running, and every few steps the scene changes on them. And those were really, really fun to write.
That's so cool.
Hard to write, but really fun to write.
Yes.
Because they're like in an abandoned city, then they're on a bridge with a dragon flying overhead, then they're like in the middle of this cornfield with these giant metal robots in it with bodies hanging from their arms, and
oh my God,
all kinds of cool things happen. But these 4 people and their 2 dogs have to come together and learn to trust each other and work together enough to try to get off of the trail, to try to find their way back home. So it's basically it's a quest story.
That's beautiful.
Starts off with each of them their own chapters, and then they kind of get drawn together, and eventually they all meet up, and then the rest of the story is just them trying to find their way back home.
That's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited to read it.
Yeah.
My book should be coming in soon. I'm very excited to read it, Larry. I mean, it's just so cool, and like I you can tell, especially from finally meeting you, that like you're all over it, right? Like bits and pieces of you are in this book, which is very
Yeah,
exciting.
there's a lot of me in this book. I like I'm doing my next book. I mean, because just the way this world is set up, I can do pretty much anything in it I want to.
Yeah.
I'm doing my next book is going to be a collection of interconnected short stories that all take place on the trail or are trail adjacent. Just
Love
all
it.
the stories are going to have some sort of tie back to the Eris Ridge Trail.
That's
I got
freaking
that
cool.
idea. I cribbed it from Sam Rebeline, who wrote Edenville. His
Oh,
new I sat last October I did a signing up in Pennsylvania. I don't know if it's Wilkes-Barre or Wilkes-Barre or whatever,
your
but
guess is as good as mine.
my friend C.W. Breyer put together like a big Halloween signing, so a bunch of authors
Oh
were
my
there,
goodness.
and I was at a table next to Sam, and I was telling him how much I liked Edenville, and he told me his collection he was working on that just came out a couple weeks ago, The Poorly Made, is a bunch of short stories all set in the Edenville universe that take place in that county. And I thought, that's a really
It's a
cool
nifty
idea.
idea.
And then my friend Kyle, I can never remember how to pronounce Kyle's name. It's either Touch. It looks like Toucher, but I don't know if it's Toucher. He told me once, but I was kind of drunk because it was at StokerCon. I can't remember. He does that with a lot of his short stories and his novella, Livewire and the Medusa Psalms are all set in Walpurgis County. And so I really liked how they were doing that, and I thought I got so many more things I want to tell about the Eris Ridge Trail. So I got 2 of them written so far, and that's what I'm working on next. Is
That's
just
so exciting.
stories that are all. They probably won't have any of the characters from in here.
Yeah.
In these.
Yeah.
I don't know if we might meet them again. I mean, I would like to think the way the book ends open-ended enough again that you could.
That's what it sounds like from everybody.
It's a teeny spoiler. Nobody dies.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what the next thing is going to be. So yeah, so this was just a big road trip of people, and so while all that's going on, there's a big, huge cosmic beast that guards the trail, that chases them, so that gives them an impetus to not only try to find a way home, but to keep moving. Yeah. It's a very fast-paced book. I mean, it's pretty much starts on the run and never. I think there's 1 or 2 chapters where they get a chance just to settle down and they're getting to know each other, and then something happens and they're just running again.
Oof.
So it is. A lot of people that's like the 2 biggest comments was it's too short. And they would have liked to have had a little bit more time. That's if I made it longer, there would have been more time for them to just sit with the characters. Sure. They could have relaxed a little bit. But I just wanted to end every chapter on a cliffhanger and just make you keep going. So that's. So I think some point I'll probably write something else with those characters because they all have more sorted. But right now, the next thing is a bunch of other ideas I had about that I couldn't work into the novella.
Sure.
That will be the next book. So hopefully I'll have it. We'll see. Hopefully it will be done within the next year or so. I've timed like the collection came out last February. This comes out in March.
Right.
And I've timed them both where AuthorCon, the Scares the Care AuthorCon in Williamsburg, which is next weekend, has been where I've had first places that I've been able to sign them for people.
Oh my goodness.
So my plan is I would like my next short story collection to be out next February or March. So I would have it in March for AuthorCon again.
That's such a good goal.
So yeah, that's my plug for AuthorCon. And so next weekend in Williamsburg, Virginia, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is it's next to StokerCon. It's probably the biggest horror writers convention going.
How
And
fun.
so I'll be there signing it. Be the first place you can get a signed copy from me. And if people want to send me an email, they could. I'll sign a copy, and I mean, I won't do it for free. Obviously, I will charge you for the signed copy, but I won't charge you for the signature.
For the
I'll just charge
signature
you
itself.
the cost of the book and the mailing. So $15 if it's
That's
in
so
if it's in the
awesome.
U.S. But yeah, last year was the first. I'd been to a lot of conventions, but I'd never actually. I'd always just been buying books. I'd never actually been there as an author. So last year was the first time I'd done it, and it was pretty nerve-wracking. Because you sit there, and I always feel bad when I was at a convention and you walk by an author's table and basically you could just tell sometimes by looking at, I'm not into dragons, so I just usually won't stop it. And or sometimes you talk to them for a while, but you only have so much money, so you have to pick the ones you really. So I always felt bad walking by people and talking and then not buying a book.
Of course.
But it happens to you so often as if you're selling it. But it goes, oh hey, how's it going? You just get used to it. 90% of people who come by aren't going to buy your book.
But the ones that do, it's
I mean, the ones that do, it's cool. Someone wants to buy something that I wrote, you sign it for them and talk to them for a few minutes. But the first half a day, maybe even the first day, it was pretty rough.
Yeah,
it's just very nerve wracking. But toward the end, you just get used to it. I've done several since then, and now it's no big deal.
No big deal. Yeah.
I've done them all with people, like the one at the one that Chuck put together at Barnes and Noble up there. That was a bunch of horror people, like me, Chuck, Kevin Lucia was there. John Langan was there, who's one of my favorite short story writers. So and then I AuthorCon, I share a table with Tom Dede, which last year and this year. So that always helps. But I've never done one by myself. I've done a couple of signings at Vortex which is Brian Keene's book, Brian and Mary Sangiovanni. Their bookstore and comic book store, but I was with several other authors, but I'm doing one in late April 12th at Park Books in Severna Park near Baltimore by myself. So that's going to be, that one I'm already getting nervous about, because if you're sitting there with someone else, a lot of times, since most people have written more than me, they're usually coming to see the person I'm sitting with. But then you have someone to talk to. But at this one, I'm going to be sitting there just by myself. It's oh my God, that one I'm already nervous about.
I think you just care so much, which I think is really special.
It's just I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
It's
only 2 hours.
Exactly.
I'll pimp the hell out of it all over Facebook and Instagram and everything, trying to get people to come.
And send it to us
too,
because then I can promote it too on our socials to see, because that would be wonderful. It'd be an honor, definitely.
Yeah. So if you come see me now, you can buy the novella, my collection, and then I have 3 or 4 a bunch of copies of big anthologies I've been in.
Oh, awesome.
That have a ton of people way more famous than I am. Which October Screams, which was all Halloween stories.
Very cool.
We've got Brian Keene's got a story in it. Philip Fricassi's got a story in it. Clay McLeod Chapman's got a story in it. A ton of really big names in that one. And then The Rack, which came out last fall, which was Tom Dede's anthology. It's all stories inspired by vintage 80s horror books, horror paperbacks. Awesome. And that one's got a ton. That one is, we've got The Raft by Stephen King in that one. So I'm actually, and my story is right after his. So I'm sharing a table of contents, with Stephen King, which is just fucking
sick.
Oh wow, that's my first F-bomb. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's probably a record for me. Probably because I haven't been drinking.
That's what it is. It's the root
beer. Yeah. But so I'll have copies of those also with me if people want to pick those up. And then you can take those to other conventions and get all the other more famous people to sign your copies as well.
You're famous too, Larry. That's so exciting. Yeah. That's so cool. Congratulations on being at all of these cons and at the book signing on your own. That takes guts. And I think it's really wonderful that you're doing it. Yeah.
We'll see if I feel that way afterward.
Sure. but it'll be an experience, and I bet you're going to meet some really lovely people during those times.
I hope so.
Sure.
Horror people are like the nicest. Oh, my dog just came running down to see me.
Oh,
just Molly, go back upstairs. They're just the nicest people. I mean, sometimes we can be scary to look at, but they really are just the best group of people. Totally. It was funny, 2 years ago, StokerCon was in Pittsburgh, and the hotel was right across the river from Three Rivers Stadium, and it happened to be the same weekend that Taylor Swift was playing.
Oh my gosh!
So the hotel was filled with horror writers and Swifties. And then on Saturday night, there was also 2 weddings.
Oh my gosh.
It was really, it's all these little girls in glitter and stuff, and their parents running around, and all of us horror authors, just everyone dressed in black and all pale,
That is beautiful.
Someone said they were in the bathroom and they overheard one of the little girls. I bet you're here for the Dracula concert.
The Dracula concert. That's what they should start calling it.
So that was really funny. It was quite the juxtaposition of crowds, of scenes there that weekend. Yeah. And my room actually faced out over the river, and so I could see, like, on the big screens, I could see Taylor's little head, and there were fireworks and stuff going and stuff. So
that's awesome.
That was pretty cool to have all your horror folks and all these Swifties running around everywhere.
Right in one spot. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's really cool. I mean, and I love what you said about just like horror fans and lovers. Like they're really kind people, and I agree with you on that. Like they are so lovely to speak to. And it's so fun to geek out with them about
it's
nerdy stuff.
All the writers I hang out with are all super nice, and all the fans are super nice. All the readers are super nice. But it is nice to be able to talk to someone else, because my wife's not a big horror fan.
Sure.
So if I want to talk about this stuff, I have to like talk to one of my writer friends.
Yeah.
And nice. So it's nice to have that outlet, because I'll try to talk about it, and she's like, well, she doesn't care. Occasionally I can get her to watch a scary movie. Sometimes I'll even pick one that she likes, but she's just not a big horror fan.
Yeah, I totally get it.
It's her biggest thing to watch is true crime.
Oh gosh,
murder.
See, I don't have the stomach for that. It's what I do not have the stomach for.
No, so I watch a lot of that with her.
That's so great.
Or when
it's a compromise.
When we're traveling, we listen to true crime podcast a lot also. So some of it is pretty horrific.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, some of it you're watching these people. It's like, how could you be so stupid? How do you not know that dude is a serial killer?
And it happens all the time.
But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, that's one of the good things about going to conventions, is meeting other horror fans.
Definitely.
That are as geeky about it as you are.
Yeah. Yes, you can share in that love. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Larry, speaking of horror fans and being a lover of the spooky, why do you think personally, right, zombies in particular have made such an impact on your life? Like, why do you think they've stuck with you for so long?
I think a lot of it is just that first experience I had with him in the drive-in just made such an impression on my little teeny brain.
Yeah.
I've just zombies have always been my favorite monster. Yeah. I mean, this was like long before the Walking Dead show ever came on the air, because a lot of people do it now. But I used to drive my wife crazy. We'd be like at an airport or something, and I was always looking for escape routes or places like I could jump up there if just in case a zombie outbreak happened.
Sure.
While we were in the airport, or while we were in the department store or something, I was constantly looking for ways to survive zombies.
Yes.
And so that it's just always been something that zombies have just been always in my head, in the back of my head. Eventually, I didn't even watch the last couple Walking Dead series because I just got kind of tired of them. But I still love zombies. I still, and every year, like for Halloween, every night of the month I will watch a horror movie, you know.
Ugh, that's
And then, like I said,
incredible.
on Halloween night, it always ends with Night of the Living Dead.
That is your pinnacle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when Halloween ends is when I watch that.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah, this past year, I actually I watched it. Was it this year or the year before? I watched it early. Actually, I sat on the porch and watched it on my laptop because the Browns were on Thursday Night Football at 8 o'clock. So I didn't get to watch all my movies for Halloween because I was watching football instead. But I
That's
still got
okay.
to watch Night of the Living Dead. I made sure I had that on my laptop while I was passing out candy.
You have to. It's a
Yes.
tradition at this
I
point.
want to
Yeah.
get eventually just want to get like a projector and just show it hang a sheet up over the house and just show it during
Oh, people
Halloween.
would love that.
Because we've got a lot of, like, I've got the 12-foot skelly, and we've got the
Yeah.
12-foot witch, you know, so it looks like she's flying on a broom.
That's
And this
awesome.
year I ran some fishing line from the corner of the house all the way out to the telephone pole in the street, and I hung like this like the girl from she looked like the girl from The Ring with the black hair hanging over her head, and she was floating up in the air. You know, because at night you couldn't see
Oh,
the fishing line. And
that's
then
freaking
we make
cool.
a stuffy guy on the porch every year. We got a set of coveralls and fill him up and put a head on him and stuff like that.
So fun, Larry.
So yeah, we go all out for Halloween. But yeah, so one year I would love to put a sheet up and then show movies.
People would love it. They would live.
Yeah, I used to, when I was in college, I worked at a stereo store, and at Sun TV in Columbus, Ohio, and on Friday nights we were open till midnight. That was like the big thing. But you never got a customer after 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I would always bring in videos. We would watch horror movies in the stereo section. I had one that I would always have it on in the background when I was running the room. That had it had the Lost Boys and Near Dark.
Ooh.
And there was one more. It might have been Return of the Living Dead. I'm trying to think now. But that was always running in the stereo store. If you came in when I was working one day, you know, I'd have the sound turned down. Oh no, it wasn't Return of the Living Dead. It was Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
Because I just remember that there's one scene where like the blood is just like a gusher hitting Bruce Campbell in the face. So we'd put that on the big screen in the stereo room. I'd turn the sound down because a lot of cursing and screaming and stuff like that. But yeah, you could always count on me having a horror movie on.
It's always been a part of you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so cool.
I'd totally forgotten about that, but yeah, I subjected everyone to watching horror movies when I was selling stereos.
That's okay. I'm sure they appreciated it. I'm sure they did. Yeah. Well, Larry, based solely on your definition of monster, do you think a zombie is a monster after all? I know you kind of hinted to it at the beginning.
Zombies are monsters. They're definitely monsters. I mean, they're something dead that came back to life. It's a totally mindless, unnatural killing machine. It's just they're definitely monsters.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can make cases for other things not being monsters that people consider to be monsters, but zombies, just by the sheer fact that they're just nothing but an instinct to kill.
Yeah.
Instinctual. That's all they know, and it's all they do. And you can't, even though like in Day of the Dead, they tried to train Bub not to, zombies are zombies, and they're monsters, and they can't be reasoned with. You know, they just die, they get up, they kill. Everything they kill gets up and kills.
Yeah.
So it's exponential. So yeah, definitely they are monsters.
Yes, I love it. Well, why do you think, Larry, that monsters are so important? Whether that's, talking about them, writing about them, watching movies about them, what is it about them?
I just think people like to be scared.
Yeah.
I mean, you're scared of something, you can watch them just to take your mind off of things that are really scary in life.
Definitely.
You can work out some things that way. Um, but I, for me at least, it's just the thrill of it. I like
Yeah.
scary things, scary
Yeah.
movies, scary books, and just spooky is just fun.
It is.
So
It is.
I don't want to do something that's not fun. I'm not
Right.
going to read romance stories. Who wants to read that?
Unless it's a horror book.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
I agree.
people like to be scared. They like to have their mind taken off of just how shitty the world is right now.
Yeah.
And spooky does that.
Totally does. It's a beautiful feeling to feel. It really is. Yeah.
Yes, more people should embrace the spooky.
Definitely. Well, sadly, we are on our last question, Larry.
Okay.
Although I know we can talk about this for probably years and years if we really wanted to.
I can talk. It's funny because I'm actually in real life a pretty quiet person, but when I get talking about things like this, I can just jibber jabber.
It's perfect. No, you've been saying such amazing things and so many insightful, knowledgeable things about the world of horror. And I have in my mind now several things you've mentioned that I need to check out myself. So
cool. Then my work here is done. Except we have one last question. You said
yes, we do. So okay, say it is Sunday, right? Maybe you were out on your porch fixing it, doing your passion project on the porch. And all of a sudden, a zombie appears to you. What would you do in that situation? What would you say? How would you react? What would you do?
What I would say is like, don't eat me, bro. He's not going to listen to me, but it's like, come on. And then you obviously you'd want to kill him because now I can actually shoot a person, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
So, all that time at the target range. Oh, wow, I get to shoot, and it's totally legal to shoot a zombie. But you might bring out an axe, you might chop their head off or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or for funsies, you could point them in the direction of, like, say, the neighbor across the street you don't like,
Larry,
and then or let them chase you up to the neighbor's house you don't like. And then I know that I'm faster than that neighbor. Then I just take off running.
Oh,
and it's like you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun your friend.
Yes.
You don't have to outrun the zombie. You just have to outrun your neighbor.
Oh my gosh.
How's that?
That's another
words of wisdom for surviving the zombie apocalypse.
That's a story.
Shoot them, and if you can't shoot them, you just become friends with slow people.
There you, Jesus.
Just be faster than your friends and you'll do fine.
And you will make it, everybody.
Yes,
You've heard it from Larry here yourself. That's how you make it through a zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure. It was so much fun. And literally, I know you have a lot of other, favorite monsters and stories that you're working on. So if you ever want to come back, we would be so happy to have you. Definitely.
Cool. Maybe by the time the next one's done.
Yes, a year from now.
Yes.
We can make it happen. That would be
awesome.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
This episode of Floaties for Krakens was written and recorded by me, Camille Maria Acosta. A monstrous thank you to Larry Hinkle for such a fantastic interview. A big thank you to Michael Kostman for producing a stellar episode, and a huge thank you to Natalie Hedberg for designing such a phenomenal logo. And music for the show was also written and produced by me, with a special appearance by my tata, Toby Acosta. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's show. It truly means everything. If you have questions or curiosities about the research or media referenced in today's episode, everything will hopefully be in the description box. And you can find us on our website and our socials, links in the description as well. Anyway, thanks again for being here, everyone. And just a reminder, it's okay to be afraid of the monster, but it's also okay to love the heck out of it too. Keep being monstrous and keep shining bright.